Looks like some massive changes might be coming to sports games pretty soon. Have you been dying to play Jelly Boy? And I've been obsessed with Death's Door, and I have some thoughts to share. All that and the latest in everything cool today in the Rundown. Hey, welcome to the Rundown, everybody. Thank you for finding the Electric Playground. My name is Victor Lucas, and it is my pleasure to bring you the latest in everything cool. And that is thanks to our sponsors at the Gaming Stadium. They're Canada's leader in online esports tournament facilitation. They've got tournaments happening every single weekend, and you can find out all about them at tgs.gg. All right, today's episode is dedicated to a gentleman named Slick Rick, who had this to say about the EA Play that we're getting tomorrow. I want to see a new SSX game come out. That's probably not going to happen, but it would steal the show if they did, as long as it's like the PS2 games and not the good, but not great 2012 reboot. I am with you, Slick Rick. I absolutely adore the SSX games, particularly SSX 3, which totally grew on me over time. I love that game, and it would be awesome to see EA embrace EA Sports big again. Who knows? We're going to find out tomorrow. We'll talk about it for sure. But right now, we've got another sports franchise to talk about. Konami dropped the news that their big sports brand, Pro Evolution Soccer, otherwise known as PES, is being rebranded to eFootball later this year. It's going to come out this fall, and it's going to go head-to-head against FIFA in some interesting new ways. As you can tell, the visuals look pretty damn world-class. This is going to be a cross-platform experience. It's going to be on all the new machines. It's going to be on PC. It's also going to be on mobile platforms and stuff out there. But the big deal with this game, and that's, I think, kind of putting the flag in the ground for sports game manufacturers all over the place, is that it's free to play. You can jump into the experience and not have to spend a single dime. And that's been true with a lot of online stuff or a lot of mobile stuff, over the last several years. But shifting to a console, top-tier sports experience like this and making it a free-to-play enterprise is a pretty dramatic statement. This is a beloved game, by the way. This, may not have the sales figures of FIFA because, EA's got tons and tons of money invested into the franchise and all the licensing that they spend. And Konami doesn't spend in quite the same scale as EA does, but they make a really tuned football experience. I have done countless iterations of our classic versus segments between PES and FIFA, and I've always been impressed by the gameplay of PES, and I know that a lot of hardcore fans of football and soccer around the world prefer PES. They think that there's a realism there. And so, this is a company that kind of chooses the bets that it makes on who it works with and what teams it licenses, what players they get in to kind of support their adventure and their enterprise. And they're kind of smart with it. But what obviously has been happening, like with all of the sports games out there, all the microtransactions have been making a ton of money. I think they have a mode in PES called My Club, and that brings tons of money, just like the Ultimate Team stuff does in EA Sports titles out there. And so, presumably, this, quote-unquote risky bet of going free-to-play is going to see a tremendous upside as people get invested in the players that they, pick up through acquiring inside of the game and all of the teams that they make and the custom liveries that they make. This should be a very interesting experiment for Konami. And, this may be Konami sort of saying, okay, look, we have to get ahead of this because we're looking down the road, and presumably 2K will do something similar with the NBA franchise that they have, and I think they've got the golf franchise right now. EA is probably looking down the road a little bit as well. It's already happening big time in the mobile space, and those games get downloaded by millions and millions of people around the world, and it just kind of makes sense, like there is this idea of it's almost like a ratings chase, right? You want as many people invested in these sports as possible. That's what's going to benefit the leagues and the relationships that these companies have with the stakeholders that own, the rights to these stadiums and the rights to these logos and team affiliations. They just want more people playing it. You know, obviously they want to make as much money as they can, but the eyeballs really matter because there's advertisements everywhere. And what we know with sports games now, too, of course, is that people will keep spending in the ecosystem. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how eFootball does this year. I suspect it's going to be, well, I think people are just going to download it. I think people are going to be, you know, let's check this out. And if they find it to be a fulfilling, especially console experience, and they're promising cross-platform matches and stuff, which is pretty cool. They're also promising, you know, there's going to be more content kind of flowing into the game. Once you go free to play, it's kind of more season-based than in shipping a product, and so you're going to be seeing lots of cool new features just keep getting added to this thing. And I suspect it's going to be incredibly successful. I think there's going to be a lot of people that just say, sure, I'll give it a shot. I got nothing to lose. I mean, we're seeing great success with the shooters out there, and I think sports might be that next category. And this might be, you know, the first game out of the gate that kind of proves that model. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see that matchup again between formerly PES, eFootball, and FIFA this fall. All right, something else that kind of blew me away, and people joined me on my stream yesterday to talk about it, was Death's Door. Now, this is a game that stars a little crow who is a reaper, and he has to go and collect souls. We collect a lot of souls in video games. Especially since Dark Souls. And Dark Souls and the kind of Souls kind of mentality is definitely an influence in this game. It's got a kind of cryptic, dark, gothic kind of vibe to it. There's some creepy little corners and stuff, but obviously this is also an incredibly adorable game. And it's a very cleverly crafted one, starring, you know, beautifully animated little characters. Not only the character that you play, but the other crows that you meet that are also sort of endeavoring to collect all of these souls. But also all the enemies that you will fight are really well represented by cool animations. There's lots of great details as well in the environments that just make it look kind of like a storybook or a pop-up book, you know? It's got a great aesthetic to it. And it's done without a tremendous amount of like hyper-realism or like trying to define everything with perfect texture detail or anything like that. It's just cartoony and expertly animated and beautifully scored as well. That's the other thing that really impressed me and everybody that had joined me on my Twitch stream on the game yesterday, is the music is just magnificent. It's just you're washed in it, you know, you're bathed in it. It's so beautiful and so lush. The game was made by a couple of developers and presumably some support in the art department, but basically it's run by two guys that make up a company called Acid Nerve in Manchester, England. And these guys made Titan Souls, which was a terrific experience, but that was a much more hardcore action experience than this one is. Death's Door has, you know, there's hardcore elements in it, and you're going to get into bottlenecks of, you know, fighting different characters and getting into some pretty intense combat and intense situations, but there is so much exploration in this game that it feels very analogous to a classic Legend of Zelda experience. And so it was very, very comfortable for me to get lost in. I love games like this. This wasn't a roguelite type of thing where you lose everything and you got to start a run again. It's all kept for you. All of the things are kept in place for you. If you activate a switch or if you light a furnace and a platform is going up and down, it will still be there when you go back to it. If you've defeated enemies in a room, when you die and start again, they will come back again. But if you defeat enemies in a room and you leave the room and come back into the room, you've killed them, and you'll see their devastation and their debris everywhere. So there is a tremendous amount of detail and also leveling up and sort of, you know, character growth as you start to understand the mechanics and the nuance. There are new weapons that you can pick up. One of the early ones is an umbrella, which was not the best weapon, truthfully. But you'll be fighting bosses that are elaborate and wonderfully represented. Very, very clever art style all the way through this. And then, you know, the sort of core combat mechanics are about rolling away from danger, using projectile weapons, whether you use your sort of magic bow and arrow, or you'll learn spell effects like being able to hurl fireballs and stuff. And then knowing when to roll into an attack and either using a quick strike or a more effective but slower paced hard strike, and you'll chip away, you know. And some of the enemies actually, you honestly do chip away as if they were made out of fine china, like Grandma here, who is one of the earlier bosses in the game. And she, you know, she's hurling all kinds of stuff, energy bolts from every direction. It's almost like old classic arcade style experiences like that. But then layered on top of that is this sort of meta story of, you know, the responsibilities you have as a Reaper and the other crows that have been sent out on missions and have been disappearing, and the mystery that you kind of have to solve. And boy, is it captivating. Oh my goodness, there was this one section in here after I defeated some stuff, and I encountered this really cool character. And that's the other thing about the world building in this game, and I don't know if this was intentional, but you know, we're obviously seeing all kinds of incredible transmedia opportunities for great IP. You know, we're getting a Cuphead animated show. So as I was playing this, it was very easy for me, especially looking at, I think this is from the announcement trailer, but it's very easy for me to look at this aesthetic and go, you know what, there could be an incredible animated series made around this beautiful, you know, creepy world that has been crafted for us. Death's Door is amazing. It's one of the best games that I've played in 2021. It's one of the most enjoyable experiences that I've played from the incredibly talented tastemakers at Devolver. They just know how to find great games, and this is another one of them. Absolutely adore it. Don't sleep on it. I think it's available on every platform, and eventually it will hit the Switch. I don't think it's quite ready for the Switch yet, which would be a perfect fit for it. I played it on the Xbox Series X, and it ran beautifully. It's an incredible game. I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. All right, I've got a couple of other things that I want to tell you guys about. It is the 25th anniversary of the Crash Bandicoot games, and Activision has bundled together a bunch of their recent titles, and they're all good. And I found this this trailer on Nintendo's YouTube channel, and it's quite remarkable, the work that's gone into Crash 4, Crash Team Racing, and the Insanity Collection that collects remastered versions of the first three Crash Bandicoot games. They're all bundled together in a pack that they're calling the Crash-Aversary, and I presume that that's also available for the other platforms out there, but I totally recommend it because all three of those games, one's a collection, one's a sequel to that collection, and Crash Team Racing is kind of a it's a revisit to the classic Crash Team Racing with lots of great new amenities. It's a beautiful game. But I totally recommend those three. If you haven't got them, hopefully they're all collected at a pretty decent price, and they get my seal of approval. Now, over in the VR space, we got some news from Oculus that Lone Echo 2 is going to be coming out very soon for the Oculus Quest platform, but you can also plug an Oculus Rift headset through the AirLink, but also you can connect a USB-C cable into a PC and play it on an Oculus Rift headset as well. This is the incredibly elaborate and beautifully detailed, you know, space experience that Ready at Dawn built for us. It's a sequel to an acclaimed original title, which really gave you a great sense of anti-gravity and dealing with puzzles out in space, the loneliness of it, the relationships that you have with your robot allies. And to celebrate the launch of this game, which I think is incredibly important to Oculus, they are putting the first game on sale. I think you can pick it up for $10. The game is hitting, Lone Echo 2 is hitting on August 24th at $40 US. And then one of the things that they're also offering is you get, if you buy the game, you get a Jack chassis, the kind of outfit of the robot ally that you have within the game. That goes onto your avatar, and so that stays with you, which is pretty cool. I mean, I like that Oculus has invested heavily in lots of original ideas like that, and I like that they're celebrating the launch of Lone Echo 2. I hope it's a great success. I can't wait to play it. I've just had some demos, but I haven't had hands-on with it, and I can't wait to check it out. Something else that I can't wait to check out is Alien Fireteam Elite. There are some previews that are hitting right now, and what I keep reading and keep seeing people talking about is that this game really honors the Aliens, you know, not so much the first Alien, because the first Alien was much more of a horror movie, and Aliens was a ramped up action experience. And I think this kind of takes that James Cameron classic and amps it up for us in some pretty thrilling ways. This is also coming out in August, and it looks amazing. I cannot wait to jump online with a couple of friends and blast away at some acid-spewing aliens, man. This looks incredible. Also, heard some news. I mean, Denis Villeneuve is one of my favorite directors out there, but another one is Neil Blomkamp, and he is getting into the video game industry in a pretty big way. He has joined up with a company called Gunzilla, which has studios in Los Angeles, in Frankfurt, and in the Ukraine as well. And there's a bunch of veterans that are associated with the company. They've worked on you know, lots of games like Crytek games and EA games. And what's happening is they're putting together a shooter, a multiplayer shooter, and Neil Blomkamp is coming in kind of like a creative lead to help kind of flesh out the story. They're not ready to tell us what the game is. Neil's been you know, popping up in a bunch of interviews. He's got a new movie called Demonic, and I think, you know, based off of that and this new news, he's been having to talk about this thing, but they're not quite ready to talk about it. But one of the things that he has been saying is that video games will be in this next century what movies were in the 20th century. And I think video games already are. I think video games are already head and tails above what movies are right now. But, you know, clearly he's seeing an opportunity for himself, but I'm also excited because he is... you know, talk about tastemakers. He is a guy that really crafts some incredible worlds. So hopefully that game is great. Also, we got a trailer for Guilty Gear Strive. First DLC character named Gold Lewis Dickinson. Looks like a badass. Giant. Looks like a giant as well. He's got a horseshoe on his on his hand. But this is one of the most beautiful games of 2021 by far. It is absolutely gorgeous. It looks like you're watching a cartoon or an anime, but that is the in-game graphics. They're so beautiful, and the music is crazy in this game. The folks over at Arc System Works are building up towards more storytelling, and they've got more characters in the pipeline that are going to be coming out over the next several months. We know how these fighting games work now. Is they come with a pretty decent roster, but there's a big plan, of course, to keep adding to it. But that's our first one, Gold Lewis Dickinson. Very interesting name for a character. And then finally, I wanted to wrap up with a little discussion about what Nintendo's doing with the Switch Online service and the Super Nintendo downloads. I tweeted something about this yesterday, but next week we're getting 3 new Super Nintendo games added to the collection. One of them is Claymates, which has like these cutesy clay-styled little characters. I remember this game when it came out. I don't remember playing it. I don't remember having any feeling about it at all. But we're going to be getting that as part of our collection. You can collect the letters in Claymates. This is a game that only came out in the UK. It's called Jelly Boy, and it sounds like a joke, but we're going to be able to play that next week. You're a little boy made out of jelly, and you can turn into hammers and such. And you know, it looks cute, but again, this game looks completely forgettable. I mean, like, I think there's a reason why this wasn't released outside of Europe or the UK or wherever it was released. And then this last one, it's called, I don't even, what is it called? Bomboozle. I mean, that just does not look like a Super Nintendo game to me, you know? Like, that looks like really rough demo stuff. And, you know, honestly, I can't believe, like, Nintendo put out a press release about these games. It's not like they're horrible, or, you know, I like the idea of celebrating classic stuff no matter what flavor they come in, because, you know, something that might not be exciting to me may be a favorite for somebody else out there. I get that, but there are a lot of amazing Super Nintendo games that could be added to the Switch Online collection. I think they've done a pretty good job with the NES collection. But the Super Nintendo, holy crap, there are just incredible games. I tweeted out 3 ideas that just off the top of my head was the Adventures of Batman and Robin that Konami made. Konami also made the Turtles in Time game for the Super Nintendo. That was another suggestion. And NBA Jam Tournament Edition. Like, those are games where you put out a video or you put out a press release and everybody goes, what? You can get those things? Oh, I'm signing up for Switch Online right away. And I know there's licensing and issues and things, but people that own the rights to these things would like people to be able to access them again. And if there's a little bit of money to be made off of this stuff, then that's great, you know? So yes, I think Nintendo should spend the money to acquire the licenses for classic things that we really, really want to play. But the other thing that I want is a list from you. And you can do it in the chat right now, or you can do it in the comments down below on the archive of this. Let me know what Super Nintendo games you think are missing from the Switch Online service and what Nintendo should be chasing down to get out there. And of course, we also want to see the Game Boy Advance on there and eventually the N64 and the GameCube. But it's pretty cool. Truthfully, it is pretty cool. There's like over 100 games across NES and Super Nintendo that I think we all forget about as Switch owners, and then you pop in, it's like, holy crap, look at all these things that we can play. Still, the ones that we can celebrate a little bit more would be most welcome. Alpha Cat's already saying Mario RPG. Nick Seabright wants Jelly Boy 2. You keep waiting for that, Nick. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for the rundown today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow. We'll talk about the EA Play event. Thank you to all of our subscribers out there. Thank you for hitting that little bell to be notified. Thank you to our EPN members. We'll see you soon, and until then, play forever.